Hey, everybody out there on YouTube. This is the Show Cocktail Hour. I'm Jay, that's Aaron.
Heyo.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
A little later on, we're going to be talking about Scavengers Reign, the new Max animated series. But we've gathered for a quick little drink before the show starts. I'm sipping on some dihydrogen oxide, a delicacy from the planet Earth. Keeps me sustained.
I'm basically drinking the same thing, but it's called Mountain Dew, and it's also a delicacy of the planet Earth.
I'm drinking Dr. Pepper with the sugar molecules removed.
Oh. Well, I also have the sugar molecules removed from mine as well. I mean, that seems to be the, soup du jour, I guess, of sodas today.
Now, we had a pretty massive pop culture passing this week. The very controversial Orenthal James Simpson. And I was curious about you two guys, if you guys had any reflections or memories over OJ.
Oddly tons.
Right?
Yeah, oddly tons. Because, number one, I grew up not knowing him being a murderer, but knowing him as a part of one of my family's favorite comedic series, the Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen. O.J. Simpson plays one of the detectives that is a major plot point in the first one, where he breaks into a bad guy's ship. And if you've not ever seen the sequence at the beginning of the first Naked Gun movie where O.J. Simpson kicks his leg through the door to try and knock it down, instead he just his leg goes through it, and all the people inside are able to pull all their guns out before he can get the door open. It is hilarious. It is absolutely slapstick hilarious. And so I remember later finding out he's an acquitted murderer.
Allegedly.
I said acquitted.
Okay.
And I know that he was in sports and other stuff, but to me, anytime someone says O.J. Simpson, I think of the Naked Gun and his ridiculous roles in that. Horrible things happen to him in the first one. And the second one, he's not in a coma and he actually does some things, but like I said, the ridiculous sequences that he has. I think that at one point he gets pushed down a set of stadium stairs in a wheelchair and gets thrown out into the middle of the baseball stadium, at the end of the movie. Tony, what about you?
I'm pretty much blank canvas. I don't really have any association.
No
memories.
knowledge.
I know there's the White Bronco. I know it's a famous trial, but I don't think my parents watched it, or if they did, I wasn't a part of that or anything like that. Or I know the Kardashians were involved somehow. So I guess thanks for that.
There's also innumerable pop culture references in movies and shows that we watched growing up, I don't know how many
Everywhere.
OJ did it in movies and stuff that I've heard.
I know Kanye, since OJ had isotoners. So yeah, I pretty much nothing on my side.
I definitely watched the Naked Gun movies a little later in childhood because I was first introduced to OJ definitely as a murderer. I think the trial is probably the first thing that I really remember, because I don't remember the White Bronco chase or any of that. I think I was just a little too small, or my dad was watching the NBA Finals that night and wasn't going to click over. But I remember watching the Naked Gun movies later on and it being jarring, being like, hey, isn't that's the guy that we all think murdered two people, right? And that's what just makes it so bizarre.
You're not wrong. It is surreal, going back and watching it. But again, at the same time, he did get acquitted. I guess he lost the civil suit. And I saw that his estate is going to fight the claims, the civil claims, because apparently he still hasn't paid that off. He had a career afterwards, and he did things. And, apparently I saw Tom Segura had a very nice tribute to him. And apparently even the White House was our thoughts and prayers with his family. So it's kind of a weird world we live in where he was acquitted. The government didn't prove their case, So
yeah.
what do you do with that?
Well, if you're familiar with Dan Abrams, he was the ABC legal correspondent for many years.
Yes.
He made his name as one of the reporters covering the OJ trial, sitting in the courtroom every day. And he had a very nice statement the day that the news broke about OJ passing, where he talked about how it's something he has to reconcile with, that his career was made by the brutal murder of two innocent people. But talking about the trial, he said that he was convinced by the evidence presented that OJ was guilty, but he was equally unsurprised at the verdict after watching how that evidence was presented.
Again, people do not realize that trial is theater. At the end of the day, it is a form of theater, because there is a performance, there is a script, and not in the script in the sense that there's deposition testimony that they're restricted to what they can testify to, and it's all kind of pre-set up to be presented in a very theatrical form, question and answer narratives, telling your story, and then people decide what's the truth and what's false. So it's and then there's burdens of proof and all that other stuff that complicates all that. So beyond a shadow of doubt is a pretty high burden.
You know what? I'm gonna give you a lot of props for explaining that without using the word crucible.
Like Nathaniel Hawthorne?
I don't know. Maybe that's only funny to lawyers. It's like you can't talk about justice or the courtroom without being like, it's the crucible where the impurities are removed and only the truth remains.
Well, I was just trying to keep it simple.
I have a question for you, law-minded individuals. Does an NDA, dissolve itself upon death of the person that you're not allowed to talk to? Y'all seen that post about that college student that was working at, was it USC? Wherever he went to college for a year, and he was present when OJ's lawyers came, and he had to sign NDA because they paid off the families of two girls I guess he supposedly was with at college and had battered them or something, and they're like, now that he's dead I can talk about this because my NDA is doesn't matter anymore. Upon death, does that go away?
I don't know, but I don't think so, because the estate still can enforce contracts that are owned by the person, because the estate or the administrator stands in the shoes of the person who's dead. And so if you're out there saying shit, I think that if you have an NDA and you die, you can't talk anymore. So technically I guess that's over. But if you sign an NDA with OJ Simpson,
or if you're testifying against Boeing,
yeah,
investigating corruption in Russia.
So I think that that's a different situation. But with regards to the fact that if I don't think the family wants you out there saying shit if you have an NDA that's signed, unless it says if the guy who made you sign this NDA is dead, you're free to be not bound by it.
That would be my
you would have to have
assumption, but I was just checking.
You would have to have a provision in the NDA, in my mind, that says that upon the death of one of the parties, this is terminated. And it could be set up like that, but I could equally see if you have an NDA and someone gave you a whole bunch of money to end a sexual harassment accusation lawsuit, maybe your family doesn't want them being like, now that he's dead, here's all the dirty secrets that I got paid to hold back.
I saw the exact post that you're talking about, Tony.
Yeah.
And
it could not be real, but
I got to the part where they described, so my boss, we go outside, he lights a cigarette, and then he tells me everything that happened in the meeting. I was like, no, that didn't happen. You're making this up.
Yeah, why would that part's why would he tell you?
Additionally, Johnny Cochran's been dead for 10 years, hasn't he? Wasn't he the lawyer?
It was the person who authored this post worked for an official at USC.
Oh.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's one of those things where it's so dangerous to present something that just sounds like it's true.
Jesus, you're kidding. Is that true?
I don't know. It might be one of those rumours you get after disasters. Did you know no one with an Apple Mac died on 9/11?
Definitely. OJ had a history of domestic violence. I could definitely believe that he committed some of those violent acts in college. Yeah, that sounds right. But, I don't know that. Whoever wrote that doesn't know that.
I don't think it really matters because the state didn't carry their burden. So. Dun, 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 dun.
All right, you guys ready to talk about Scavengers Reign?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Let's do it.
Previously on the show.
I get the supremely spicy Sabra hummus, frequently.
Jay will tell you, I try crazy shit.
I was going to ask you, I was like, did you form it into a meat log and then roast it over a fire and then shave it off so that you could have your gyro, or did you just kind of do it all in a pan?
Have you seen the 80s Dune movie?
The one by David Lynch?
Brought to you by Twin Peaks.
I have not. I hear that one's really good too.
I've heard mixed things. I've heard mixed things about the 80s Lynchian Dune. Like, it has its fans. But I also think that was not the right pick for that movie. Like, we've got this great idea for this movie called Star Wars. Who could direct it? David Lynch.
Oh my god. Like I'm imagining like James as Han Solo.
Like, number one, the Force.
I don't care about anybody.
The Force is never actually mentioned. Like, they never actually mentioned the Force in David Lynch's Star Wars. Like, it's just inferred from everything that happens.
Can I ask a juvenile question?
Yes.
Can you tell me some more about the genitalia customization?
It was very long. It was like, okay, yeah, come on, let's get to the conclusion here.
Give it a rewatch. It's worth it, just for the pecs.
It looked kind of anime meets Western animation. I'm not quite sure, but it had a pretty cool aesthetic.
It's Demeter, not Demile.
Hello, and you're watching The Show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Warmest greetings, and welcome to episode 68. Here today, we review the 2023 Max original animated sci-fi series from Joseph Bennett and Chuck Hoytner. Fuck Kamen. Seriously, fuck that guy. This time on The Show, Scavengers Reign. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I'm joined, as always, by my two Hall of Fame crew members. To my left, the force of nature slowly transforming the show into a new organism. It's Aaron.
Hey, now.
And to my other left, an android who was just learning to love. It's Tony.
Of course.
Here at the Show, 100% customer satisfaction is our holy grail. We want to hear from you. Check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our upcoming tour, convention, and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find us on Instagram at the Show Pod. Send your emails to the showtvpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me individually at jsuesponte. Aaron, where can we find you?
The Muscoverse at Tenacious Aaron, if I ever post on there.
And how about you, Tony?
On Instagram at tpinquite.
We also have a Discord that I set up and haven't been on in a while. So as soon as anybody can explain to me how Discord works, maybe we can connect with you there.
But I'll show you how Discord works, and we'll get it actually working.
Okay, awesome. The Show is now available everywhere podcasts are sold. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public. You can also check out our YouTube channel, Mandamus Radio, where we do a bonus, this time legal-themed cocktail hour. Before we dip into our last can of space rations, we must first visit the unofficial scoreboard. This is the part of the show where we share our thoughts on any kind of other diversions not picked by the wheel of randomonium that's caught our eyes recently. So, Aaron, you mentioned you'd been enjoying something recently. What's been going on for you?
I watched through Halo Season 2, loved it. I watched the movie series X and Pearl, which, if you're into horror slasher films, they are primo, very well done. Very fun movies. But specifically, and this was for Tony, I decided to dip my toes into the long-ass journey known as One Piece and have started watching One Piece from the very beginning.
I guess I'll see you in like 10 years or something when you're done.
Yeah, like, Jay, this show has 1,100 episodes, and I was reading, because it's anime.
That's too many.
It's anime, and I was like, oh, surely there's got to be like a filler guide. Of the 1,100 episodes that have been released since 1997, still active, still running, there are only 94 episodes that are filler, that are not a part of the comic book that has been running since 1995.
And how long are these episodes?
Crazy.
23, 26 minutes. I mean, it's just
a lot.
It's a cartoon series, right? Like it's like an anime classic style length with commercials, So yeah, but 1,100 episodes, and it's one of the most popular long-running animes out there, right, Tony?
That's my understanding. I've avoided it purely for the length reason.
I also have avoided it, but man, the people that I rated in WoW with, a lot of them were like up to date. Like they were like watching it, waiting for the next episode, and they were just like huge fanatics of it. And I remember how many times they would just like geek out about it. And I was like, you know what? I watched Naruto. It's got 500 episodes. I can do this.
I believe in you. Godspeed.
To be fair, Naruto has like 250 episodes of filler, so it's that's the difference. It's 500 episodes long, and half of it's filler. Versus it's quite sustenance or substantive, I guess would be the better term.
That's the great thing about the show. All killer, no filler. Am I right, boys?
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing in my unofficial time, and it's going to be kind of something that I journey through for quite a while.
How about you, Tony?
Oh man, I never seem to remember what I've been doing since the last show when we get here. But that anime I was talking about, probably the last two shows finally done. It was like a 25, 26 episode Frieren, Aaron, if you want to break from your 1,000 plus. It was pretty great. I think it kind of like, at least on Reddit, kind of took over.
What show is this?
Genre. It's Frieren, Frieren. It's basically like a super slow, kind of like, I don't know, not like Lord of the Rings, but there's a lot of like, they're like traveling from town to town, and then it's kind of like main characters.
Is it an isekai?
No, it's just like a fantasy.
Just a fantasy? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the elf. This elf is the main character, and she obviously like lives for much longer than humans. So half of it's like her present day with a group of people, and half of it's kind of like her remembering 50 to 100 years ago, traveling with another group of people, like a group of heroes and stuff. And then also, but it's really good, slow and also awesome action at the same time. Like not in equal measure, but it's really, really good.
My wife is very much into the slow shows, like the slow burns. It usually leads to a better payout for her, so I can understand it. Like sometimes, I guess One Piece is kind of, maybe they call it diesel because it starts really slow and it just never stops picking up steam, is what I've been told. We'll see. Have you heard of was it Solo Leveling?
Oh yeah, I did watch that too. I read the manhwa or whatever, the
manhwa, because it's Korean.
Yeah,
Korean anime.
So I read through that and I really liked it. I know it's supposedly like, I don't know, I guess when things get popular, it's fun to hate on them or whatever. Kind of like Sword Art Online. I think it's kind of like the Sword Art Online of manhwas. They kind of started the whole, like, now there's like a million ones that are similar to it. But the first season was good. I think it'll pick up. I think they're going to do like, I think they've already announced like they're going to do like at least 4 to 6 seasons of it, or cores or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I don't know how they pick all that stuff, but I remember watching something that was saying, like, my cousin, Adam, he's really into a bunch of different animes, but he's been like watching Solo Leveling as it, I guess, comes out because it was being released recently, so he really liked it.
Yeah, it just finished like 1 or 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.
Jay, what about you?
Ooh, I might have a case of Tony and Mija here, but I think last time I was watching Home Improvement, the great '90s documentary. And I just felt compelled to continue with the 90s ABC sitcom track, and there was really only one show that I knew I shouldn't go back for, but I did it anyway, and I started watching Boy Meets World.
Oh,
because I've done this before, and it kind of does not hold up. But
did you start all the way in like grade school, or did you skip to like high school?
Okay. Yeah, like big mistake starting from season 1. Like there's a big shift in the show once it gets to season 2 and they're in high school, which going from 6th grade in elementary school to 7th grade in high school, like what kind of a school system is this?
Yeah, it's weird.
But like season 1, the music is like it's literally like a carnival ride. Like it sounds like they took the music from oh, Jesus Christ. What is not a Zamboni. What's the thing that spins with the horses?
Carousel.
A carousel. Thank you. Wow. Where is my mind?
Where is my mind?
Well, that's a little preview for next episode. But
It's 5 shadowing right there.
it's, it's something. Something a lot more recent is they've released a special 28-minute episode of Bluey.
Whoa, they're usually 8 minutes, right?
Right.
So it's basically like the Bluey movie.
Yeah, basically. The creators have said that they are taking a break, but this is not the end. But like watch the episode and tell me that's not a finale. Because it's all about the family is moving and they're going to have to sell the house, and then they have a wedding for Rad and Frisky in the backyard of the house, which I was telling Lindsay earlier, like having a wedding in the house is such a sitcom trope, especially for the finale. Like, how many people actually get married in their backyard, and how many people get married in their backyard in the finale of a sitcom?
I'm just saying, isn't that like the entire premise of like one of the? Oh no, that was How Much Mother. Never mind.
But maybe I'm just colored by Home Improvement, because that's literally what happened in Home Improvement. Al got married at Tim's house. Because I think it's like you have to end it somehow, and they're like, we're not going to build another freaking set. Just have it at the house, man. Yeah, so new Bluey episodes, it made me cry, just like they all do. And it's like definitely an episode for the parents and really much less for the kids.
Dude, I hope it's the end. Like, why can't anybody ever go out on top? That's what I'm always asking. So if they're peaking, they're like top of the world. If that's the end, let's just do it.
I'm sorry the way you said that caught me off guard. I hope it's the end.
I hope this is it.
I'm tired of this effing Bluey stuff.
What? How very dare you?
No, I would love for a show or a phenomenon to just like exit at the peak of its popularity.
I don't know. I'm torn on this because, like, for me, I just recently read through and watched Dragon Ball Super, and growing up and watching Dragon Ball Z and it being like foundational to a 13, 14-year-old self, and then coming now and watching a continuation of that story, I had huge nostalgia and at the same time great excitement for a new adventure with characters that I had a deep connection to. And so like I can see how continuing on with stuff, like especially coming back to it, has been so powerful for so many people and so successful for so many shows. At the same time, The Office should have ended about 4 seasons earlier, and they should have come back and done 4 seasons again later or something like that, and that probably would have been a way better experience. But you never know. Arrested Development didn't exactly work for them. So.
Well, you guys ready to get into Scavengers Reign?
Let's do it.
Let's get to it.
Well, this was an Aaron pick. Tell us about Scavengers Reign.
Alrighty. Well, in the visually captivating and critically acclaimed series, we are introduced into a group of survivors from the interstellar cargo ship Demeter 227, who find themselves stranded on an alien planet, Vesta. Each character brings its own unique perspective on their harrowing journey of survival and discovery on this lush and dangerous world. And psychedelic, if you will. We have our main cast of characters. We have Ursula and Sam. Ursula is one of the crew members in the horticulture lab. She's resourceful and resilient, and she's working with her commander, Sam, navigating the treacherous landscapes and the alien flora of Vesta. Sam is the pragmatic and decisive commander of the Demeter. He is grappling with leadership responsibilities as he encounters various hostile elements of the planet. We also have Ozzy, who is a cargo specialist, who along with her companion Levi, a robot, who is voiced by Aaliyah Shawkat, who is maybe from Arrested Development, deals with
We don't know, maybe.
Marry me.
Maybe.
Hey.
Deals with the challenges of growing food, maintaining life support systems under alien conditions, and Levi is also affected by a mysterious growing yellow substance, and begins showing signs of independent thought, emotion, and complicating their already difficult journey. And finally, we have Kamen, and collectively, fuck Kamen. He is the crew member whose personal struggles are magnified by the isolation of Vesta. His interactions with what's called the Hollow, a telepathic and telekinetic alien creature, introduces a dynamic that significantly alters both of their fates. The Hollow's sinister evolution is driven by his bond with Kamen, which becomes a central plot point that intertwines the survival strategies of the rest of the group. As the story unfolds, the survivors' path converge, driven by the needs to reunite and find refuge. Their individual stories of resilience, conflict, and interaction with the alien ecosystem form the heart of Scavengers Reign, making it a profound exploration of human and non-human struggles and the adaptation in a foreign landscape. Each character's depth and complexity are highlighted against the backdrop of a vivid and perilous environment, pulling viewers into a narrative with rich and emotional and existential stakes. Boom. ChatGPT'd.
I was like, wow, like thinking back to any intro I've ever done, I was like, well, crap. Mine are garbage.
I just got tired of reading, like, kind of off of Wikipedia, and I was like, I can do something a little bit more. So
I don't want to start off on a tangent, but I'll do it anyway. Like, speaking of, like, AI stuff, is like, I have a little Galaxy tablet, and it just recently got, like, some updates with AI, and, like, part of that's, like, it'll, like, go in and transcribe and, like, ChatGPT analyze, like, your recordings, and, like, I did it for one of mine, which was just my audio. Like, I want to see if I can, like, download one of our pods into it, but it was, like, it had the speakers labeled, which for me was just myself, speaker one, but then it had, like, transcribed it, but also, like, summarized, like, the talking points and stuff. I was like, man, the future is pretty cool.
No, I've been using it to summarize documents that I need to quickly provide information to people on. Like, it's very helpful. So it's a useful thing, and that's what I did. I just took the information from Wikipedia. I said, give me a little summary, and boom, a little bit better than just reading Wikipedia.
It's a wonderful summary.
A little bit better, but with that foundation laid, I got to say, right off the bat, the first couple episodes, my brain took a little while to acclimate to the art style. Because, and maybe it's the definition of my TV or the frame rate, but like the first couple episodes, I felt like my brain was almost skipping like a couple of frames or something. Because it almost felt like it was running at 30 frames a second rather than 60. Did anyone else have a similar feeling?
It must have had like at least some pieces with lowered frame rates in there.
Do you felt the same way?
Definitely at some points, for sure, yeah.
Like, it felt more Adult Swim than Pixar.
Which, again, it's based off an Adult Swim short film, so it makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
But, yeah, for being HBO quality, those first couple of episodes, my brain was just like, I feel like this should be a little bit higher resolution quality than what's happening. About episode 3, my brain, I guess, just kind of recalibrated, and I didn't really notice it anymore.
Yeah, same.
I thought the style worked extremely well for the nature of the planet. I think the art style worked a little less well for the animation of the humans. But what a planet. What a world.
What a world. And again, the imagination behind some of the life forms and way that they interacted with each other and with the humans, it was a wild journey.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, some people can think of some crazy shit. In an awesome way.
Did y'all catch that the guy that got killed by the Hollow with Kamen was Gideon from Righteous Gemstones?
No!
Didn't notice that, no.
Yeah. I heard his voice and I was like, that voice sounds familiar.
I was the parrot from Aladdin!
And I went looking and sure enough, Skylar Gisondo. What a name.
Because I noticed in the first episode, Chris Diamantopoulos was credited. He's the boom guy from The Office. He was in Mrs. Davis. But I wasn't able to find any credit of who he was.
Yeah, I think that they had just some side voices that were used in parts, but the main cast was just our 5 characters or so.
Mm-hmm. Now, you did, or at least ChatGPT pointed out, the planet is called Vesta, and the psychedelic frog is called Hollow. But I'm famously dense, but I didn't remember hearing names for either one of those. Did you guys?
No, I got Vesta. Vesta, yes.
I think
do
Vesta
remember
when
Vesta.
she says her distress call. When
Oh, that's right.
Does.
I also think it was on the screen whenever they were doing like the scans and they were like coming near the planet. I think I remember seeing it there. The Hollow, I think I just pulled from Wikipedia, and that must be from the description.
Okay. Because I finished this show liking the lack of nomenclature. Yes. I liked that it was so wild, so foreign, so unexplored that absolutely nothing had a name and it didn't matter. I really like that aspect of it.
Well, if you go, I'm looking at Wikipedia, in the summary of each episode, it's described as the Hollow.
Mm-hmm. I see. I had maybe this was the nature of me binging shows instead of watching it, but like I feel like it took me 4 episodes to remember people's names. Levi, Ozzy, and Ursula, I remember their names because they get said a lot, but Sam's name wasn't said too many times. It took me forever to remember his name. Like, I guess Kamen gets said a lot too, but I was like, man, what are these dudes' names again? Like, and then about episode 4, it came together. Major question I have, I guess probably let the mystery be maybe a little bit, but why did the Hollow have to brainwash people to hunt food when it can like literally like explode and break people's necks, like, and catch them from falling, even when it's like tiny little thing? Like, it could do whatever it wanted to, whenever it wanted to.
I mean, the first time we see the weird black goo coming out of its mouth, it's being fed into a much smaller species that it's getting. I take it that this is a lazy like species and it just can get things to do its bidding, so it does. But it also has psychokinetic powers, blow up spaceships. So I don't know.
It can catch a human falling after it was just playing with little berry eaters. I don't know. It's just like, not that I can understand the evolution of this planet at all, but I was just like, all the other ones, like, okay, maybe I can kind of like trace the evolutionary path, but this one is like, it's already evolved to like basically rule this planet if it wanted to, essentially.
But it's basically a koala that could rule the planet. And I think that's the difference. It's not until like the human emotional drive is added to it that, and of course, you know, it's Kamen who is horrible. The question is like, what would have happened if it was of anyone else there? You know, like what would have been the outcome?
I feel like it was the same. I think like it was just showing manipulative visions to get its target to bring food to it. So like, I feel like any human would have started like doing the same things. They just would have had different visions to like motivate them to kill and bring food, I imagine.
You don't think that him destroying the ship and stuff like that was driven by the visions that he was sharing with Kamen? Because like a lot of it had to do with his remorse with his wife, spouse, whatever.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Like on
it was
the
not
directionality
clear.
of like the influence. I don't really understand. Yeah, it's hard to understand. Like,
I took it as symbiotic because it felt like the Hollow became more aggressive the longer he was connected to Kamen, right? Like Kamen was killing things and bringing it to him, and it became more violent.
Fans of the Wikipedia article will see that one of the co-creators said that Kamen's presence has introduced human greed and gluttony into this animal kingdom. So I think that's kind of it, where before the introduction of humans, the psychedelic frog, the Hollow, was just content living its life. But then once we introduced humans, and maybe even especially Kamen, a person who has demonstrated a willingness to risk other people's lives and safety for his own gain, like introduce that element of greed, makes the psychedelic frog's behavior change.
I call it a frog walla.
Sounds good.
It's a koala.
I like that.
I was just mad that no one wanted to kill it. I was texting Jay. I'm like, so like she like slashes it. It's laying down, and she doesn't go for the head. Instead, she's like, "Okay, man, what? Like, you're not gonna try to kill the thing that just like ripped your robot apart and tried to kill you, and you got it down. And you can like do a killing blow."
To be fair, you don't think you slice open the thing and like Jay's face is inside of it? You're gonna be like, you know what? I should make sure and stab this thing in the head now.
I don't think I would even see Jay's head. I think I'd be like, oh, it's down. I've got to kill this thing because it can like lift me up and rip me into shreds with its mind. I don't think I'd even see Jay.
I don't know. I feel like if you saw Jay's face just pop out of internal organs of something that you just sliced open, you know, like a tauntaun, you'd be like, what?
Oh.
Don't die.
Sorry,
you're wasting your breath, Jay.
Yes, I smoke to remember.
That was a good story part that, like you said in your summary, connected everyone together eventually and like pushed things forward.
I didn't like a lot of the characters, if I'm being honest. Like, I guess in that maybe that's the whole point, is like everybody has their problems, whether they're standoffish or brutish or a know-it-all or whatever. And again, when you're put into survival situations, you're kind of pushed to your limits. There were just times where I just was like annoyed by the main characters at times. I was just like, the choices that we're making, why?
Man, what year this is, the human body has become way more resilient then I imagine my body being the things that happen to them. They fall off shit, they get bitten and stabbed and like inhale toxic fumes, and they're just like, well, that sucked, but I'm all right now.
I mean, yes, and there's definitely, I don't know how they already know how to use so much local flora and fauna to their advantage.
Yeah, Sam and Ursula.
They're just like, oh, boop, let me go ahead and use this balloon fish.
Yeah, it felt like they dropped that a little bit after the first episode. Like, maybe it's because they moved beyond where they had been camping previously, so they were encountering new flora and fauna that they didn't know how to exploit yet, but...
Do we know how long between the, like, exodus of Demeter to when we pick him up, how long it's been? I guess it's been long enough for Kamen's hair to grow long. I don't know where he was pooping, but... I guess long enough for them to like set up shelters and like grow plants like on Ozzy and Levi's thing, but like it doesn't ever really say like how long it's been, I guess.
No, but it did take a little while for the ship to come down, is because it didn't come down till we were in the show, right?
Yeah, like it was still in orbit and they had to like command it to come down, right?
Which makes you think like was it an accident that it wasn't destroyed? Like, why'd they even leave?
That doesn't make any sense either. I agree.
Yeah, like, why'd they even leave if it's cool up there in space?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I didn't catch that the first time. But yeah, I thought the show, if it's being pulled into the planet's gravity, then wouldn't it crash? Isn't that why you're jumping ship?
I think there was a massive solar flare that fried major systems on the ship, and they abandoned it, but I guess they were sure that the ship was going to be destroyed, because otherwise, like, they should have just gone into the cryo hangar.
Unless the solar flare killed the people on board, because what's his name's girl, Kamen's wife, she was dead on the ship, and we saw her body, right?
Oh, maybe you're safe in the cryo chambers.
Maybe the cryo had some type of like lead lining or something to protect them from the solar flare, whatever. But again, also, how are you going to have a spaceship? There's cosmic radiation outside of just near suns. Like, you can't just be all like, well, we'll just avoid stars. Like, there's other shit blasting through the universe, gamma radiations and stuff. So, like, I don't know. I don't quite understand. I thought it was because of the gravity that they were being pulled in, but now thinking back, it doesn't make sense why it would be stuck in orbit.
Well, what if it was just that the ship was damaged to the point that it was no longer able to support human life in space? Like it didn't have the structural integrity to have the atmospheric bubble, so they had to get in the escape pods and leave. So they bring the ship down to the planet, and so they're never going to be able to fly the full ship, but they can fly that shuttle we see at the end.
Okay,
I've watched a lot of Star Trek.
No, I followed that. That makes sense.
No, if it was a Star Trek episode, there would have been a warp core breach, so everybody would have gotten off the ship, but Scotty would have fixed it before it actually exploded.
I feel like you've seen that episode before.
Oh, dozens of them. If I may, I'd like to skip until the very last scene of this show.
Sure.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. Like some sort of space religion, and there was like floral decorations around their ship too, with their golden stained glass window, and then they came to like, I don't know how Levi's having little plant babies.
Well, and how did the plant baby get on the shuttle?
Yeah, that's the big question. It's like, because
it was so here. This is how I see that sequence. We have Levi show up. Levi apparently already had like the cell or whatever to do that and must have gotten onto I can't remember the pirate's name. We'll call her a pirate for now.
Chris.
Pirate Chris. And she gets away, barely survives this, dying of water, thirst. And I would say that maybe they're setting up for a second season type thing, like to continue on and explore. And yeah, I kind of agree with Tony, some type of like religious order or something like that, or an alien species.
Yeah, like the stained glass and the incense. There's only one thing you reference in there, but like the robot baby, and like I get that the shuttle escaped with some piece of the planet, and the whole thing about this planet is that it kind of cannibalizes everything.
Well, it's the flower. So, I call it the death flower, because everything that dies has that flower grow out of it, and that's what infected Levi. And then that Barry picked it. She's like, oh, pick that, and we'll give it to Terrence's family. So, like, that was the flower that infected. I assumed it was going to, like, infect the ship, but I thought little Levi's little robot babies were all, like, around. Maybe she planted that, but how do you not notice this big jelly orb when you pull the plant out with a little baby robot inside of it and put it in your bag? Like, that's part doesn't make sense. Like, because that's what would have had to have happened, I'd imagine, like, in that scenario.
Could be. I don't think that the show was vetted for continuity perfectly, you know. I don't think it needs to be. I think it's partially a visual journey.
Yes.
It felt like Rick and Morty if it was serious.
I could see that.
Because, like, they have creatures and plants, and they have weird shit, and I feel like there was a lot of channeling of that, except for it was like, what if this was serious and not trying to be gross and funny?
Yeah, but I also feel like there was an element, like, when Ursula, like, goes full, like, Akira and her organs, like, fall out, like, that I was like, oh, that's how far we're going with this show.
Yeah, there was definitely some gross. It was serious gross, to your point, Tony. It wasn't funny gross.
Yeah. But it was also trippy psychedelic. Like, it wasn't just straightforward gross either. Like, it was always some type of unusual, surreal, psychedelic type interpretation of it.
Tony, you mentioned a similarity to Annihilation. So I was curious what kind of connections you saw.
In Annihilation, there's like this, I don't know what you call it. There's like I think they call it the Glimmer. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. And then someone mentioned it was based on you mentioned it was based on a book. I never read the book or whatever. But like, it starts like altering and splicing and combining different DNAs. And so, like, when they go inside of it to look at it, they see all sorts of, like, amalgamations of plants and animals, like, different things, like, and that's just kind of what it kind of felt like seeing the animals on this planet, like, people's imagination, I guess, when they were thinking of animals, it kind of felt, and it's also super colorful and kind of just weird, so just kind of had the same kind of vibe in that sense of, like, weird creatures that, well, obviously they're alien planets, but just, like, strange, like, combinations of things you find on Earth, maybe.
Yeah, I see that.
It was cool.
That was the one with Natalie Portman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
And I think Oscar Isaac's in it too. And some
Was that Alex Garland who wrote that?
Yeah, it was Alex Garland. I want to see Civil War, not to get on another tangent, but
you know, I want to see that as well. I'll be honest. Like, I'm curious. Alex Garland has earned the right to make movies that I'll go see. That's one that I'll go. They're not always great, but most of the time it's worth going to see.
The amount of biodiversity on this planet seems like unfathomable to me. Like, I mean, our Earth is crazy. We have some crazy creatures and stuff, but it's like, it kind of like almost makes sense. Like, everything here was so different. Like, it had different powers and like methodologies, and like there was a million different biomes. I feel like we went through like 20 biomes for them traveling like 10 miles between themselves and a crash ship. It was like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but also, what would happen if humans hadn't been here for the last 100,000 years eating everything? Think about how many animals we hunted to extinction from the 1600s to the 1900s. You know?
That's a good point.
How many biomes don't exist anymore because cities now exist there? Like, what would Vesta look like 1,000 years after humans have colonized it?
I was so worried. Like, it also has alien vibes, basically. This show does. So I was like, who is going to be infected and go take that parasite or whatever back to humans? Like, I hope they have like very stringent quarantine policies for anybody that's been off-world.
I didn't get that feeling from the little that we saw outside of Vesta. It felt like this future was much more laissez-faire. Maybe it was that opening scene where the company is like, hey, the ship's missing. Do you care?
I don't care.
Yeah, shit, I don't care either.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't feel that most people are going to give two shits about safety or any of that stuff. So it's too late.
We kind of got some of that from Chris, too, where all that mattered was the cargo. The unspecified mystery cargo.
Of microchips. Somehow these microchips are going to change everything. I thought, what was the little red herring of, like, I thought Ozzy put less sticky goo on her shoes and she was going to frame her, like, slipping into the water like an accident to get rid of her. And then
I think it was just to give her an advantage in the fight.
Oh, maybe so.
She knew she was going to jump her, so she was hoping that she would slip and fall in.
I am glad. I was texting Jay. I'm like, they better not let Kamen redeem himself somehow, or I'll be pissed. And they didn't, and so applause to the show.
But he was at the end of the show just a shell person. Like, he still is there. He didn't redeem himself, but he's like, Sam's dead, but Kamen's still there, still alive.
I thought they were going to have him wake up and somehow
save the day,
stop the Hollow, or take control of the Hollow long enough for them to defeat it or something. And I was like, please don't do that. And they didn't. And I was very happy they didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's also fun to say fuck Kamen. So I've said that. I said that like throughout the entire series.
Yep, my theory that didn't come true was that Kamen's wife was somehow going to resurrect in Levi, and then they were going to get back together. Also very glad that didn't happen.
I thought Kamen would become a Hollow. Like, I thought that's how they made each other. It's like they just like grow and grow and then eventually like get taken inside. And like I thought when he like umbilical corded him, he was going to like basically like be born as a Hollow at the end or something.
I also didn't understand why he exploded into a smaller version of himself. Like he just like Russian dolled it.
I am not a cockroach.
Yeah, that made zero sense.
Or like the reverse Nathan Fielder coming in hot to the planet.
My thought, when I was like, I try not to think like too abstractly, but I was like, okay, is the yellow Levi plant juice stuff like the good of the planet, like because it's trying to like look out for all the different species and it seems to be kind of peaceful, and is the hollow black goo like the evil of the planet, and they're like opposing forces that are never supposed to interact, and when they like meet in the form of Levi and the hollow and they're about to start like feeding on each other, is that going to cause like who's going to win, good or evil? And I guess good won, but I was like, I wonder what happens if evil took over like the yellow plant goo. Like, would the planet just become like super hostile or what?
Yeah, I feel like it's like what the creator said, is that the Hollow was not inherently evil or bad. It was just that the greed and human nature tainted the Hollow. Because I think it's kind of like, is a tiger that eats a child evil, right? Like that.
Yeah, it's very Jack London.
It is very Jack London.
I guess it was like a feedback loop. So I guess like Kamen made it worse and it made Kamen worse, kind of.
Yeah, because I think that unfortunately it's also part of human nature to completely bombard yourself with memories of the worst possible things that have happened to you. So like he's sitting there and he's like begging to see his wife, but every sequence that we see, it basically leads to a horrible outcome for Kamen, right? So it's like, I need to have these visions. Okay, keep feeding me and I'll give you these visions. Okay, I'll murder all these animals and gluttonously like overfeed you. Show me more visions.
Drugs, not even once.
Like the planet's meth. So obviously Kamen was my, Donna.
Yeah.
I mean, spoiler alert for how when we get to ratings, I really, really enjoyed the show. A lot more than I thought I would. But I'm kind of like, I don't hate it. Hate's a strong word, but like, I don't like it in shows when like, okay, so Sam and Ursula, I guess Sam was about to do it before she woke up, but it's like, Sam, like, out of friendship and camaraderie, like, was able to almost resist his parasitic brain override nature, but this guy who was in love with his wife for, I'm presuming, like years, and they've been on this planet together for who knows how long, he's like immediately like, nah, she's mine. Let's corrupt her. Let's ignore everything she says and not talk to her. Like, it's like, how does this make sense? Like, it seemed a little inconsistent.
I think we ran into that on Midnight Mass, didn't we? Like that whole like, oh, I'm resisting.
It's like, did I ever send y'all those? I think it's just one guy, but it's like a Screen Rant pitch meeting video series where it's basically like he breaks down those plots of movies. It's like when he breaks down Harry Potter, he's like, well, and Harry's protected because his mother died protecting the one she loved. It's like, oh, no one's ever in the history of the world died protecting someone they loved before?
What is it he always says? Like, not a problem, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. But that's just like that. I really liked most of the show. That part I was kind of like, it's a little I feel like they were consistent in most areas. In that area, that was just like, wait, so this. I mean, I get that they have a bond, but it's like, is their bond stronger than John and unnamed plant lady? I don't know. I doubt it.
Well, I'm going to be honest here. The sequence with the species that goes out into the middle of the sea to protect its young from storms, but has no defense mechanisms from something swimming into the hole and eating everything. Like, I just was sitting there watching this whole sequence, and I was just like, this feels really dumb.
I feel like maybe it does not need oxygen, but the eggs do, and that's why it had to have its little tube sticking out of the water, so that the eggs could still have air, and that's why it was exposed. Whereas normally it would never be exposed to like that situation, I guess, except for that one scenario.
So you're saying the eggs sitting on the beach where this clearly aquatic and non-aquatic bug creature that swam into its snout and down its gullet and into a big open area that looks like the inside of a clam filled with little pearl balls? I'm sorry. That, to me, I was like, why don't you just wait till the storm's over and go to the beach and eat them all?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a great point, like, actually. Yeah, they're under.
What is happening here? Why did we make these decisions?
How about the sequence over the ravine where Levi blows up, and they shoot that grappling hook tied to the winch on the motorcycle, right?
Yes.
And the grappling hook attaches to the bare cliff edge. The little barb on it has nothing but stone. It just digs right into this flat surface.
And that side's the stronger side versus the motorcycle.
Exactly. Like, which one gives way to, like, heighten the tension? It's the motorcycle side. That made no sense.
I mean, obviously, dirt is really, really solid.
It's almost like they had a deadline, and they were like, we can't draw the trees and rocks and whatever. Just, fuck it. We'll do it in post.
Y'all ever played Titanfall 2?
No, I did not. I played Titanfall 1, though.
Anyway, granted, it's like large mechs, but like, there's a scene where the mech throws their pilot a long distance to get. I mean, when I think the pilot has jetpacks and stuff, I was like, oh, Levi's just gonna like chunk, do like a spinny throw. Levi was probably strong enough to do it.
Yeah,
could have thrown her across the chasm. Levi was MVP.
Yeah,
I really liked Levi's journey. I really liked the gradual introduction of the sense of self and the individuality, and like eventually, personhood. Yeah, exactly. Because that's a massive sci-fi trope.
Yeah.
Because it's a very easy vehicle to examine what it means to be human, which is essentially what sci-fi is always about. And there's only so many ways you can do that, but I thought this was a nice spin, a nice unique spin on it.
I agree. And I think that if they do a season 2, it'll follow the young Levi type figure as part of the story.
I'm glad Ozzy was quick to transition to treating Levi like a person. Whereas, like, initially she was dismissive and was like, you're malfunctioning. This is not supposed to happen. And then she kind of, like, she made a quick transition. Because I was kind of be like, is this going to be like a Danger Will Robinson scenario? Robot's going to go, like, to protect
Johnny
itself.
Five is alive.
Yeah, there felt like a threat of that near the beginning when I think one of the first things we find out is that Levi has been active while Ozzy was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's creepy.
I mean, if your Roomba was cleaning your house while you were sleeping, would that be creepy to you?
Fucking outrageous.
I mean, I get used to it, but the Roomba doesn't talk to me.
I mean, this model doesn't.
By the way, the company that makes these vacuum cleaners is called iRobot. Like the Will Smith movie where robots try to destroy humanity. Think about that.
If I had a Roomba that referred to itself in the first person, I would be creeped out if it cleaned my house at night. I'll go ahead and say that.
If it wasn't scheduled to.
If it wasn't scheduled to. I mean, I don't know. Like, have you seen Bicentennial Man? I feel like
no, I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
How have you not seen this fantastic Robin Williams movie from 25 years ago?
I didn't know it was so fantastic.
I don't know that it's. I wouldn't say that it's fantastic, but I definitely remember watching it as a young person.
Ooh, bonus episode.
It's a movie. It's not a show. It doesn't count.
You got me.
Anyways, there was definitely like androids cleaning stuff. So,
anybody else feel like Sam got done dirty at the end?
Yes, I 100% feel that way.
I agree with you, Aaron, about not really liking anybody, and especially Sam. Sam was kind of a dick. Mm-hmm. He was right that Kamen, fuck Kamen. He was right about that. but he wasn't really having any other endearing qualities. He was just kind of overly protective over Ursula.
Just an aggressive male.
Yeah, and then they just left him within sight of the Demeter. I didn't like that.
I didn't like it either. I feel like, again, of all the people who should have made it, or should have not have made it, should have been Kamen. I feel that Sam not making it, and it being Kamen's fault that they're in this mess, I thought was bullshit. Everyone else made it, except for Sam.
Yeah.
So, I feel, even though I didn't like
Terrence
really
didn't make
any...
it.
Well, Terrence wasn't part of the crew.
It's true.
Terrence was... And again, Terrence has made his own choices. When that happened, I was like, oh, that was kind of out of nowhere.
I thought that voice recording thing was going to come in handy of like, they find a big predator, record it, and then they can play it to like chase off smaller predators or something like that.
There was so little of that. Like there was never really any like foreshadowing and then payoff later. It was just kind of like, oh, now there's a new beast and we deal with it and then we move on.
Yeah.
Well, even with like the one that made the copy of Sam, right? Like that was like one half sequence and then it was over.
Yeah, once they left Sam, I was waiting for Clone Sam to show up, and that didn't come back.
No.
Clone Sam was dead. He burned to a crisp.
He got burned. But even then, that's what I'm saying. It was like one sequence. Like it was episodic, but it was almost like little vignettes, right? Each of their little survival moments were like little vignettes of survival.
I don't get when Ursula breathed in the stuff. Like at first, it just makes you hallucinate and doesn't do anything, and then I guess if you don't stop, you turn into a fungal Last of Us creature. I was like, wait a second. I was like, oh,
I think
she's
that
gone.
was just visions. I think that was just visions of what was happening, wasn't it?
It wasn't happening to her, but like that's what had happened to everybody else. Like all the bodies in there, unless those were hallucinations too. But I don't think they had the masks on when they were looking at those people. This planet's like known, obviously. Like, do you think they had like a field survival guide, and that's how they knew how to use the little oxygen mask creatures and the little balloon creatures, and like to slice open that animal to get its little glow in the dark kidney stones or whatever those things?
The lady was filling out a guide whenever they were shown to be younger. Like one of the early sequences, whenever there's the flashback to the lady and the man, she's filling in information about a plant. So maybe they're like she sent out the book at some point, and this is years later. But again, I would have figured that the only people who had access to that book would have been them.
There's a lot of things that is so well done and makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot, especially those first. Maybe that's why they dropped the first couple episodes. And just like, how do you test these things? That's why I'm like, how long has it been since they crash landed? Like, how do you test? Like, okay, this animal is going to attach to my face, stick tendrils up my nose, but I'm going to feed it CO2 and it's going to give me oxygen or something like that. Like, okay. How do you test that? And it's like everybody knew like even Ozzy, I don't feel like she doing experience. Even her, she knew a lot of like things that would happen when she interacted with like the little white crawly bug finding the little white orb amongst all the red ones and then breaking it into like a big puffy balloon and then it would turn into sticky goo. Like, how do you experiment with these things?
I don't know. How did the first humans figure out that you could drink milk from a cow?
Yeah, but I mean, like everyone died a lot.
Look at Tony. What's he doing there? Get your mouth off of that.
I mean, everyone died a lot is what I'm saying. It's like millions of humans died. Like, oh, that snake's poisonous because everyone that gets bit by... Yeah, like you can't...
Long line of trial and error.
Yeah, and diseases. And it's just like, oh, everyone that eats that berry goes bye-bye. Let's not eat that berry. Well, that snake bit these people and then their limbs fell off and they died. Like,
it gets back to what you said, Tony. These humans have evolved to the point they can fall down mountains and they're okay.
Yeah, they just hurt their shoulder and then they can climb up another mountain because their shoulder like Wolverined itself back into...
Is it too on the nose to have one of the characters be like a doctor or a healer that we could see using the plant for medicinal qualities? Or is the point of this show that the planet itself serves that function?
Well, to be fair, Ursula was a horticulturalist, which would have some knowledge of plant stuff. So maybe we're supposed to infer that she's been able to figure out things based off of her prior knowledge of alien horticulture.
Yeah, but I think infer is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Because we just don't see it.
No.
Like, I think there's a lot of things that I think I wanted to see and we just didn't get.
I would agree.
Like I did like the little morsels of backstory. That actually reminded me of Lost. Like when Lost was really clicking and going well, when they would tie the current story of these castaways with their past before the crash. And we got a tiny bit of that with Kamen, and I think I wanted a little bit more of that with the other characters too.
Yeah, Ursula and Sam, they didn't get hardly anything except for Sam's interaction with Kamen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get some of Ozzy.
They'd probably have to break it up into like 2 seasons to tell the story if they were going to do more backstory on each of them.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I really liked? The music.
Mm.
It's pretty great, in my opinion. Or the score, I guess.
I would agree. I think it fit really well.
Opening sequence was great.
Yeah.
Just that soft piano over the crash. I thought that was a really great way to just jump right in without having to have any kind of real exposition. Just kind of like, they crash, this is what happens, go.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I like animation, because like, think of a live action version of this show will be garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Impossible.
because like the budget you would need to do it kind of even halfway close would just be astronomical.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Just think of how bad, that was the early 2000s movies Evolution was, and that was just showing all the ridiculous aliens that they had based off of some like shampoo ingredient. So have you guys ever seen that movie? Do you remember that one?
I feel like it's ringing a bell, but not fully ringing. It's like a ding, pretty, not like a full.
Yeah, it's a ding-less movie.
Oh, that's the one with like, is it like a smiley face or something?
There's definitely like 3 eyes. It's got 3 eyes on it.
Okay.
I definitely remember renting that movie a lot from the local video store in my hometown.
What a creepy movie. Have you seen Splice?
I have not seen Splice.
Well, it is, it's out there. I'll just say that. I don't want to, like, the thing I was going to talk about is basically like the major spoiler of the movie, so I don't want to talk about it.
You probably shouldn't talk about the major spoiler of the movie.
Well, that's why I asked if you've seen it before.
I
go live to a reporter in
of
the
this
field.
movie. I'm going to look.
It's got like Adrian
right now,
Brody
so
in it, and I don't know if there's like Adrian Brody and then a female lead, and I forget who the female lead is.
Tony, what the hell am I looking at in this picture?
Oh.
That's got David Hewitt in it. I love David Hewitt. He was in Stargate Atlantis. Where Jay was a huge Star Trek fan, I watched a bunch of Stargate.
I'm still stuck on this like bald mouse person.
Anyway, some jacked up stuff goes down in that movie. So,
based off the picture I'm looking at, I believe it 100%. I'm probably not going to watch it, so you can go ahead and drop the spoiler.
I remember, but there's like,
I also believe Jay's not going to watch it.
Nope.
They like gene splice in a bunch of different creatures, and they end up creating this little humanoid type thing, and it learns and it eventually like seduces both main characters and like incorporates part of them. Like it seduces, like I think it seduces the guy first somehow, and then it incorporates his DNA to turn into a male, and then it seduces the girl or something like that to like, I don't know if she gets pregnant or not, but it's like really, it takes some turns.
Well, that's
the messed up part.
It sounds that it spontaneously changed into a male.
Yeah, I don't know how maybe it started off as a female, and that's how it was like that.
I'm sorry. I was just reading from Wikipedia. It says Ginger had spontaneously changed into a male.
Well, I think it takes the semen from the dude and uses that to turn itself into a male.
Spontaneously. Sua sponte, if you will.
Hey! There we go.
Well, with that, do we want to score Scavengers Reign and get off of Splice?
What a segue!
Yeah, let's splice some scores together.
That's good.
Well, did any objects catch your eye for a custom rating system? There were just so few named objects in this show.
Baby Levi's.
I like that.
It sounds like a jean brand.
Baby Levi's.
For toddlers.
See, now I'm just thinking of the Baby Levi's wearing Baby Levi's.
It's like Baby Gap, but it's Baby Levi's. Or what if it's maternity pants called Baby Levi's? And they're jeggings. New product placement. I'm going to give it 8. I really, I didn't have like any expectations at all going in, and then like it really captured me. Like the world, the imagination, like I said, the score. I liked the story and interacting. I thought the pacing was good. I didn't feel like at any point I was like, oh, when's this episode going to be over? And we get back to these other characters. Like, obviously I hated Kamen because fuck that guy, but like, I think you were supposed to hate him. So like, it all worked for me. I'm gonna give it 8, whatever we decide. Baby Levi's out of 10.
I like it. How about you, Aaron?
I concur. I think that it was a solid sci-fi outing. I thought that the animation was quality. Again, the choice to kind of do the, I guess, toned down, frame rate or whatever, I think was definitely an artistic choice. I don't think it was a sub-standard quality. I just think that it was supposed to try and make it feel more like the way the short film was, which was, on Adult Swim. So, I think that the visual style, the voice acting was very nice, very good. This overall kind of vignette style that they did was enjoyable. And although I would prefer a show that has a protagonist that I am rooting for, like that is the shows that make me like really enjoy the show. This one didn't have that, but I still think that it's worth a watch. So I'm going to give it a 7.5.
7.5 Baby Levi's. I'm going to be a little lower. I think I'm going to come in at 6 Baby Levi's. I loved the visuals. The music was great. The uniqueness of this show was really, really fun. Because there's just not a lot else that's just like it. Mm.
How did like the visceralness / gore, like how did that, was it easier since it's animated, or was it still hard to get through?
I might say it's tougher when it's animated sometimes, and it feels like that might even be specific to like animation, where sometimes they just really ratchet up the grossness, like an exploding body and you see all the ribs and the heart pumping inside or shit like that. Like there were a couple times when I had to
wince,
shield my eyes and just not watch. I can't remember specifically, but there was one where Lindsay was in the room and I was just like, oh hell no, tell me when it's over. So that was a bit of a negative for me. I think what brings my score down a little bit from yours is that I think I was a little more negative on the story. I think it was a little slow, and I think the characterizations were a little hollow. I wanted a little more dimensionality, especially to Ozzy, to Ursula, and to Sam. Like it felt.
I'll agree with that.
I didn't like that we got the most backstory about
Kamen. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Like I wanted a little more about everybody else. So I'm gonna come in with 6 Baby Levi's. If you guys want to vamp for me, I'll give you some numbers on that.
Definitely,
like
after you said 7.5 Baby Levi's, imagined like just like the lower half of a Baby Levi wearing Levi's.
Is Baby Levi just a ripoff of Baby Groot? Is that what?
Yeah,
they're just cashing in on that IP.
Absolutely. Everybody's trying to come up with the next plushie that they can sell.
Yeah. I agree. I think Aaron mentioned earlier, like I think there's another 12 episodes where they flesh out these characters, and they're probably just like didn't get greenlit. I think the lore exists somewhere in somebody's journal for Sam and Ursula, especially Ursula. Ursula had like 0. She's just like digging in the dirt on the ship.
Yeah, she just exists.
That's the only flashback she gets. She's like, I'm digging in the dirt.
But couldn't you have seen, like, they were like, hey, we've got this 24-episode series that we want to do based off of our short film. And HBO's like, we'll give you 12.
Best I can do is
12. One last complaint. How can one person, I don't care if they're the highest ranking person on the ship, like, completely alter the path for an entire colony ship through space? Like, how is there not, like, a dual authentication or, like, something sort of system in that thing?
Well, like that sequence, whenever he was doing it, the guy was like, "Oh, should I get the captain?" No, you don't need to get the captain. No, it's fine, I'm fine.
Like there's like gonna be like a 2 key, like a nuclear launch code.
I'm sorry, George, I can't do that.
Turn your key, Mora. Turn your key.
Turnkey thing where like no human can reach it with 2 hands, and you gotta like authorize that stuff. It's not like a tiny little road trip. Well, we're gonna take this exit.
I just assumed at that point we'd have AI that would prevent people from doing shit like that. Boom. ChatGPT'd. So,
like they had that on the Adam Scott show Severance, didn't they? Like at one point, like the guy was going to have to like cover 2 buttons at the same time.
And he did it, damn it.
And he did it.
Also,
but not on the Demeter,
yeah,
apparently.
No. And Severance season 2 I think is coming.
Yeah, I think they wrapped on it. Wrapped on the filming. But the final score for Scavengers Reign comes in at 7.16 repeating, which is tied with Farscape, just below AP Bio, just Above, Avenue 5, Bluey, Chef, Fooly Cooley, Watchmen, The Woman in the House. Wow, there's a lot of shows at 7.
I think we were previously more generous.
Just eyeballing it, it looks about halfway down the list.
It's a subjective scoring system. If we like the show,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of stuff that we choose to like,
I did.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
my expectations were just like, because they were non-existent, I think I gave it a high score, but I would suggest it to people, whereas I don't all the time feel like I would say, hey, you need to watch this, but I think I text at least one friend who's like, hey, I think you'd like this show. It's pretty, it's a good time.
I'd suggest it with a disclaimer. Hey, it's a pretty good show, but recognize that there's some graphic, visceral stuff in it. Because again, not everyone can handle that just showing up in their content.
True. I'm desensitized.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm desensitized enough to the point where in anime and stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, his hand got cut off. It's just that's just what happened. So it's actually funny when Jay was like, on anime, I feel like it's way worse. And I'm like, you know what? That depends on the anime, because Akira is super visceral, organs and all that stuff. And then there's times in Dragon Ball Z where it's just a red dot.
All that happens in Dragon Ball Z is they punch you in the front stomach and you see a handprint come out the back.
Yeah. There's a little indention come out their back whenever they get punched in the stomach.
Man, anime. When did anime take a turn for me? Tokyo Ghoul, I think, is when I started watching that. I'm like, oh, anime is serious now as far as violence. I've been all Toonami level.
Are you saying you want to make anime great again?
No, just the Toonami era was all I didn't realize it wasn't adult until Tokyo Ghoul and even Sword Art Online. I hadn't run into a human villain that was just a giant piece of shit, sexually assaulty until that show, and I was like, oh, there's actual villains, not just I'm gonna destroy the planet.
Yeah, no, I think Hellsing was the first time that I was watching it with some friends in high school, and there was a sequence where the bad guy was like, I'm gonna fuck him, shoot him in the head, and then fuck him there. And I was like, oh wow, that's hardcore. So anime definitely has no problem going all the way. So with that said, an anime's not on the list. Are we heading to the Wheel of Randomonium?
Let's do it.
I think we are.
All right.
Now, it's important to remember we have a very special episode coming up next time. We're going to be covering The Leftovers, all 3 seasons in a megasode, so be watching out for that. So our nominations today will be for the episode after The Leftovers.
But because the megasode is kind of being recorded in its own unique way, we're going to go ahead and pick that episode or that next series here.
Correct.
All right, so up for the wheel, I have brought as my offering this opportunity the new Amazon original series Fallout, based on the video game. I'm super excited for this. It's definitely a game that I have played through and enjoyed multiple times. Tony, what have you got for us today?
Got The 3 Body Problem on Netflix. Supposed to be good. I really don't know anything about it. I know it's something to do with aliens.
And China.
And something to do with China. I think it's based on a book written by, I think it's exclusively almost all Chinese, and then apparently the show, according to one of my roommates, takes some liberties with that and makes some of the people not Chinese, and that maybe has some Chinese people mad about it, but we'll see. The premise says there's a character watches her father beaten to death during a struggle in the Chinese Cultural Revolution. She's conscripted by the military because of her scientific background, is sent to a secret military base in a remote region. Her decision at the base to respond to contact from an alien planet has implications for a group of scientists in the present day, forcing them to face humanity's greatest threat.
Time-traveling aliens that are communists.
Oh, speaking of the upcoming Leftovers episode, there was many 5 and 6 shadows in today's episode that
That's true.
Fans will have caught.
If they've seen the show.
If they're listening to our podcast, I hope they've seen it, because it is a spoiler podcast.
All right, Jay, what about you? What do you have for the wheel?
I have offered the FX hit series Shogun, based on the 1975 James Clavell novel. I don't know a lot about it, other than I've heard it's really good, and my dad is a huge fan of the novel series. And he is the type of guy who it really doesn't matter what the source material is. He's going to hate the movie. He's going to hate the show. So I am really excited to watch this and try and get him to watch it and see what he thinks too.
Okay.
I'm rooting for both of y'all.
Well, let's shuffle it up. And we're going to spin.
Let's spin the McConaughey wheel.
All right.
Spin.
Oh, I said that. Oh, there we go. Hey, I've been wanting to watch Shogun, so.
Shogun.
Hey-o. Arigato gozaimasu. Wheel of Randomonium.
That was pretty good.
Alrighty.
Whew. I am very glad that we chose to do the wheel on this episode, because what I hear is those episodes are super long, and it's going to take me a little while to
get through it.
The Shogun episodes are long?
Yeah. I think the first episode is it's like Twin Peaks, where it opens with like a 90-minute.
Ooh, binging. Not going to work on this one.
Yeah, so Shogun originally aired on FX, available on Hulu, and I think now that Disney Plus is basically cannibalizing Hulu, also Disney. So
I really wish they would have just relaunched it as Dulu.
See, what pisses me off is that Disney refused to do a Lizzie McGuire reboot, or revival, and ended up doing How I Met Your Father instead, because the creators of Lizzie McGuire wanted Lizzie McGuire to be a 30-year-old person who, imagine that, has sex. But Disney is, they're not going to do that. But now that Hulu is just becoming Disney, like Poor Things is on Disney. Like you could watch Poor Things, but Lizzie McGuire having sexuality is too much.
To be fair, in the current climate of the All Quiet on the Set Nickelodeon expose, you know what? Disney being like, we don't want our characters having sex might be an okay thing for them to have as a standard. Like, I hear everything you're saying, but like simultaneously at the, in our culture right now, it's being blasted across the airwaves, all this stuff about like the dark side of kids television. So,
yeah,
I hear you, but like if they we're just not going to go there with our characters, you know what might be wise in protecting the IP overall. Now, to your point, you've got, Deadpool and all this other stuff that's coming into Disney Plus. So they maybe need to have, Disney Plus After Dark or something like that.
I do want to clarify a little bit. I'm not saying that I wanted to watch Lizzie McGuire do it. I'm just saying that they were going to have storylines that involved Lizzie's sexuality as an adult. I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Let the record reflect.
He's like, I want my wife to know I was not trying to see Hilary Duff partially nude.
Well, very good.
Yeah, so that's my that's my diatribe on Disney Plus and the lack of Lizzie McGuire revival.
I need to rewatch the Lizzie McGuire movie because I'm going to Rome this summer. So that is the quintessential, most accurate version of Rome put on film.
Yeah, I've heard that said before. I don't know why someone would have said that before, but I have heard that said.
You heard it just now.
You know what? Boy Meets World doesn't hold up, but the Lizzie McGuire movie 100% holds up.
Does it, though?
It might as well be Shakespeare.
Boy Meets World doesn't hold up. That's depressing to me, man. I love me some Boy Meets World.
Look, don't ever go back and watch like all that or the Amanda Show or any of that stuff, because it's all basically way better in your memory than it ever was.
I'm scared to go back and watch Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life and those kind of shows. I'd be like, what was I consuming?
Rocko's Modern Life holds up. It's funny. Ren and Stimpy is like a little bit too much. Like somebody hired some people that probably shouldn't be allowed to be around children. But there's a weird era of animation that people got away with a lot more stuff. Like there's a whole like nudist colony episode of Rocko's Modern Life where he like a nudist colony moves in next door and they just like draw things in front of the naked people, but they're like clearly depicted as nude.
Like Austin Powers.
Yeah, like holding a box in front of your crotch.
Yeah. Greatness. Well, it's been a great time talking about Scavengers Reign with you guys. I am very much looking forward to getting depressed in the next episode. So I am going to go get ready. But I appreciate you boys joining me. Thank you very much, Aaron.
You're very welcome.
And thank you very much, Tony.
Of course.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Until next... Oh! Until next time, I will see you in the trees. Oh, damn it, Dick Wolf.
All right, Alex is listening to us in Ohio. Hey, Alex.
Yes.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
Not
Juice?
bad.
Juice, can you hear me, Juice?
Yes, I can hear you, buddy.
Yeah, remember when you played for the 49ers?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you kill Bill Walsh?